network.com. Moving straight into the big story, and the conversation for today is on caring for the neglected elderly. That's our senior citizens here in Nigeria. And I have someone to talk to me about that. Her name is Sarah Ugbana. She's the founder of Azar Initiative. Good morning, Sarah. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Adeswa. Nice to be here.
It's good to have you.
Thank you.
First of all, what's your interest in senior citizens in Nigeria?
Okay. Well, growing up, I grew up in an environment where I was surrounded with lots of neglected older persons, and for as long as I can remember, it always bothered me seeing them on the streets, begging, not having proper shelter, not having proper food. And I, as little as I was, I thought to myself, if I could, one day when I grow up and I could do something about it, why not? So that's basically the interest in it. I just have a passion and a love for them.
Okay, so that was what inspired your Azar initiative.
Yes, that's the whole idea behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But why do you think? Because I do know that one of the goals of the sustainable development is having to include both everyone, carry everyone along, including senior citizens and the elderly. But it seems as though we're still lagging behind as a country, in that regard. I don't know, outside of Nigeria, they have old people's home where you can care for the elderly if you as an individual cannot do that by yourself. But here it's as though when you're older, people just forget about you, and then they're part of the places where they just, ascribe you to be maybe a witch or a wizard or something like that, just from old age. Why do you think that is at this time, 2021 in Nigeria?
Well, I don't think it's a 2021 thing. I feel like we're Africans. So the culture in Africa is you take care of your elder one.
Yes.
It's something that has been passed down from generation to generation. So as an African person or as a Black person, it's expected, it's your responsibility to say, okay, once my dad gets old, I take care of him. But now, like in the new century, the 21st century, most of these younger people are growing up. They need to, especially in rural communities, they need to make a better livelihood to be able to afford things like healthcare, welfare. So the gap between when they leave to go look for a better means of livelihood, that gap now creates a lot of neglect, abandonment, sickness, abuse, because there's no one to now properly cater for the needs of the elderly people. That's one aspect. Then there's the other aspect where young people don't really care. I'm young and I don't want to grow old, so most times they see older people as burdens. Why do I have to be at home 24/7, or why do I have to close from work by 5 and still have to go take care of this person and do this and do that? So most times it's it's the balance isn't there anymore. The idea that this is our responsibility isn't there anymore. So that's why organizations like mine came up to say, okay, if you will not be able to do this, we can step in for you to provide these services so as to ensure that the needs of these people are met, because we all pray for long life, right? So you will get old. So what's your plan when you get old? So that's the whole idea.
Okay. So you did mention bridging the gap. So how can we start to do that, aside from organizations like yours who have taken it upon themselves to say, look, we can do that for you? But how can we as a community, as a people, start to look towards bridging that gap, connecting the dots, having to generally just include them, caring for the elderly and all of that? How can we get there? What can we start to do as a community?
I think it starts from the head. Whatever affects the head affects the body, and this is from the leadership perspective from our government. And I'm really excited to let you know that the government have been looking into putting policies in place. They recently approved the bills for older persons' rights. Thanks to the COSROPIN, an association that advocates for the rights of older persons. And then they recently elected the first Director General for the older citizen centers, which is Dr. Enen Omokora. So as to see how they can include older persons into, because if there aren't policies in place, there's so little that the people could do. If you don't have a policy that says abuse of an older person is wrong, we see it as it's normal. Do you understand? There are so many things that are tagged normal that are not normal because there aren't rules, there aren't policies set in place. So the federal government have gone, you know, with the help of these associations. There are associations in Nigeria that advocate for the rights of older persons, and we are part of that association. So they go to advocate, okay, we have to put policies in place. So now that the policies are in place, that's why the DG is working now to make sure that there's an implementation of these policies. So it's not just to have policies, but how do we implement it? Not just on the urban level, the rural level, because, you know, they need it more from the grassroots level. So if as a country we know, okay, now we have older person's rights bills. If you abuse an older person, this is the consequence. This is the penalty. We have sensitizations such as this is how you cater for the needs of older persons. Older people are like babies. You don't treat them like adults. As they grow older, they grow like babies. So you have to be patient. You have to do this. You have to do that. You have to do that. When people are aware and know that, okay, this is what's happening, and I'm not just doing this because there's an older person right in front of me. I'm securing my future. I pray to be old, you know. So 60 years down the line, 50 years down the line, if I'm able to make sure that these policies are in place, I get to reap the benefits. My children get to reap the benefits of the policies that are in place now, you know. So I feel like that's one of the major, it starts from the head. If as the government is working to implement it, they pass it down to the institutions, the local government, the federal government, the judiciary, the chairmanship, you know, even as little as schools, they get to know, okay, you have to do this, you have to do this. I feel like that's, I know, not feel, I know like that's one of the ways you could include older people and make people aware of the fact that these things are happening. If you don't leave your comfort zone, you will never know what's happening outside.
True.
Yeah.
True. All right. Thank you so much. That's about it for the show. Thank you so much for joining me on the conversation this morning. I hope we can, you know, as a country, achieve total inclusion, including, you know, the elderly people, because I also do not like to see, you know, senior citizens being neglected. Thank you again for having me. Yes, thank you. And thank you for joining me on the conversation this morning. As I always say, the conversation comes to you every weekday. That's Mondays to Friday.